Hey, everybody. My name is Ryan Shear here on Lebanon Now, and I am with Lebanon Police Chief Jerry Harrison. And you guys have reached out to me and asked me about license plate reader cameras, flock cameras, whatever you want to call them, right? And I reached out to Jerry and said, hey, would you come in, sit down, let's have an honest talk about it, because there's a lot around it that I think we need clarification. And we don't like all the speculation on the internet. We just want to go right to the source, right?
Well, I appreciate that.
Hey, no problem. So commonly known as flock cameras, license plate cameras, reader cameras. So I'm going to let you have the floor for a minute, and I'll pick up with questions. But to eliminate what they do and don't do, could you give us a little bit of what they are and what they're not?
Sure. Yeah, you give me the floor, Ryan. I'm going to run with it. So
Fair enough.
If you want to jump in and interrupt me or ask specifics, please do.
Oh, absolutely.
But so Lebanon has had some sort of license plate reader cameras for several years now. This is just a new version, a much improved version, and the company name is Flock Safety. So a flock camera is specific to that company name, no different than your. So there's a group of cell phones out there, but the iPhone belongs to Apple.
Yeah, it's an overall. Flock's kind of like the software. It
is exactly. There's hardware and software of Flock,
and that is a national database that these go to, and you are able to use local.
Well, let's talk about that too.
Okay. Yes.
Yeah, so it's on the list, but things I want to cover. But so first of all, let's talk about what they are. So it is an automated license plate reader camera. It captures the license plate image of the vehicle.
Okay.
It also captures an overall look of the vehicle.
Okay.
It does not capture who's in the vehicle.
Okay.
Doesn't do facial recognition of who's in the vehicle.
Okay.
It doesn't do facial recognition of pedestrians going by that camera.
Okay.
So the license plate camera itself is honing in on that license plate. Now, the AI inside of Flock Safety allows it to do what they call a fingerprint, but really it's just a vehicle description. So it's a learning system. It can tell you if you could search a license plate, or you could search a white SUV.
Right.
Or you could search a white SUV with bumper stickers, or a white SUV pulling a trailer, or a white pickup with a toolbox in the back.
Right.
Or a minivan. Or you could specifically, if we were looking for, if you drive a white Chevy Silverado, we could specifically say if we know you're our suspect, we can specifically say search for white Chevy Silverado.
You can put the license plate, the thing, make, model, all that in, and it kind of
do that as well. So there's different search processes inside of the software system itself.
And it tells you kind of where that has traveled, which cameras it's went by, path, those sorts of things.
You could put with some investigative effort, you can put that information together. But it takes someone who knows how to do an investigation and how to stitch that information together
That's fair. But what doesn't it do?
Well, again, it doesn't do face recognition. It doesn't do pedestrians, identifications. What lives on the database is not your information. That is protected under federal law.
Okay.
And it's also protected under state law. So your license plate information and your driver's license information, those kind of things are, among many other records that the government maintains, those are private, not public records. Yeah. What it does is just that license plate. So again, an investigator has to come along and investigate. And so we can plug the license plate into the system, but the system doesn't tell us that license plate belongs to Ryan Shearer and it goes on a Chevy Silverado.
Yeah.
You could have that license plate on anything that you want to put it on. That's what the system's going to cue in on.
Right.
Now, the investigator, the police officer, takes that license plate and runs it through the systems that we have access to that are maintained by the state and federal government.
That are protected by our rights.
Yes. So like your driver's license and your license plate are under state agencies.
Like as a normal Joe Blow, I can't take a picture of a license plate in a parking lot and know who that car belongs to.
Correct.
Yeah.
So, but if you brought that to me and I had a legitimate law enforcement purpose, I could run that tag myself. Now, I can't give you that information.
Oh, of course.
But I can run it and I can use that information in my investigation, find out where that person lives, what they drive, all that stuff. So none of your personal identifying information resides inside of the Flock system. That's what I want to really get across.
No, fair. And next, because you got notes, and I'm going to let you.
So So that covers what lives on the flock database.
Okay.
Essentially nothing other than what we are using it for.
Gotcha. Would you compare it? Let's go a little. Would you compare it to something like a CODIS, like with DNA, with the whatever? Like it does.
It's kind of, but that's probably a complicated process that a lot of people aren't familiar with. It's sort of, my understanding of CODIS is it has the DNA code in there, the sequence, but it doesn't tell you who that belongs to.
Right.
If you want to know who that belongs to, the system will tell you what agency, what government agency to contact to get that data. So it is similar in that respect. If you wanted to consider DNA to be the license plate. Something that it would be more like a surveillance camera at a retailer.
That's fair. Yeah.
The retailer has their camera set up. It's video recording who's coming and going. It doesn't tell you who that person is.
Right.
That takes a police officer to come along and do an investigation.
Yes. Yeah. So, no, that's
for this conversation.
One thing before we move the do's and don'ts, it's not a speed trap. It's not a ticket writer camera. It's not because we hear a lot of things when it comes to cameras, that stoplight cameras, ticket writer cameras. It doesn't do any of that. That is not what it does. Okay.
No, there's no enforcement mechanism. There's no enforcement tool inside of the flock system. You wouldn't be able to identify anybody from it that was operating the vehicle. You wouldn't be able to detect a crime on it because of it doesn't record in that way to which you could see the time and distance and all that. Now let's go back to data a little bit. It does interact with the databases that we connect to it. So there are government entities that have lists of wanted and stolen persons, persons of interest, persons with warrants, cars that are stolen, people that are associated, if you have a motor vehicle registered in your name and you have a warrant for your arrest, those are connected inside of the state system. And as a police officer, I can see that.
Right.
So the hot lists, what we call the hot lists inside the database, again, it doesn't tell the story of why that piece of equipment is, if a license plate on a stolen car goes by that reader, it doesn't tell us the who, what, when, where, and why. It just tells us this vehicle is on a stolen vehicle list. And then we would have to grab that license plate and figure it out from there.
But how about like Amber Alerts? If we get an Amber Alert and that's tied to a license plate.
It's a database again. Yeah. So that's another database that bumps up against this. And yes, you would get the Amber Alert. But again, all the system is going to tell you, hey, there's an Amber Alert here. And then the officer, when they get that alert on their computer, is going to have to be savvy enough to get in there and get to work. Yeah. And we are trained on those types of responses, as you can well imagine.
No, absolutely.
So when the officer opens up, like for flock, if we go into the database to say, I'm going to check your tag, say I have your license plate associated with a crime. Yeah. So I'm going to punch your license plate into the system. If I want to do that, I can't just jump into the website and randomly start searching, right? I have to log in to the software. So everybody gets their own login, just like most things. Yeah. So I would have to log in with my username and my password that only I'm allowed to use by department policy, city policy. And then when I fill out the search parameters, I'm required to put a case number in there.
Okay.
So this is not an issue where an officer can try to learn about an attractive individual that they see while they're out on patrol. Yeah. I wonder what this person drives. I wonder what they're doing. So you can't. In addition to that, they can go back and search. If you came in and said, I feel like I'm being harassed by the police department. Yeah. I know you guys are searching my vehicle travel and blah blah. Yeah. We can pull that search engine up and look and audit it. Yeah. And if anybody has indeed put your tag in there, we can see exactly who did it and when they did it and why they did it, and then audit them to determine, was this an appropriate use of the system?
And this is a great segue to, and we talked about it briefly before, the case in Joplin, where there was some misuse of a flock camera.
Correct.
That's exactly how. So these searches with redaction were public records. So a person, and they'd found out through my research that somebody had researched the same 2 license plate 365 times, like that, and that officer has since been like that thing. But you guys are taking those experiences to learn to adopt more policies.
Well, I think two things that I always warn people of.
Yeah.
When you see a story in the news,
Mm-hmm.
be careful about hitting the panic button, because, every day people get in their car
Yeah,
and they go to the grocery
of
store
course.
and then they back out and then they hit somebody. That doesn't make the paper. Why?
Yeah.
Nobody cares. Happens every day.
Right, 100%.
Yeah. So the things that make the news
Mm-hmm.
are by definition
Anomalies.
anomalies. Thank you.
No,
So,
no, 100%. I mean,
so
that's what
number
we do.
one,
Yeah.
always keep that in mind.
Yeah.
But that doesn't, okay, so we can't just look at something and say that's an anomaly, we're not going to worry
Mhm.
about it. That's not true either. We still have to
Right,
make sure
yeah,
that we're
yeah.
protecting people's civil rights. The
Mhm.
the local police are the most important protection, the first stop for everybody's protection for
Yeah.
civil rights. So we know there's an opportunity for
Mhm.
abuse. Every system is going to have an opportunity for abuse in it.
Right.
So what are we doing about that? And when you see the news story of the Joplin police officer being terminated, that is showing to the community openly,
Mhm.
transparently, we had an abuse,
Yes.
we confronted it.
Yes.
And so it shows that the mechanisms in place are doing what they're designed to do.
Mhm.
When I worked in Kansas, there was a police officer in a metro area who was using flock to stalk a victim,
Mhm.
and that officer was criminally charged.
Yes.
So the system works. There are safeties in place
Mhm.
to prevent the abuse, and good leadership, good systems. They work hand in hand to protect people's civil rights. So again, there's policies governing the use. There's the system audits
Mhm.
everything that happens inside of it, and so we will be able to monitor every individual officer's activity inside of that system. And we will be required to do that on a somewhat regular basis, as we are required to do with, we have access to your license as a police department. Our law enforcement has access to people's license plate
Mhm.
information,
Yeah.
driver's license information. We're able to go in and determine exactly who ran every single query into the state system. And we do. And the state audits it. And the state comes down and audits us as well. So
Okay.
they audited at the state, they audited locally, we audited ourselves. So my point is, there are layers of oversight in every system
Okay.
to make sure that we are protecting people's civil rights. So what does it not do? This, I think, is really important to talk about, because you do see some of this on social media.
Yeah.
Oh, well, they're going to start mailing us red light violations.
Yeah.
Well, it's just not possible.
Yeah. Yeah. That was one of the big things when I seen. So when I seen, excuse me, when I seen it, they were talked about flock cameras, like that's been the name.
Right.
And I have up here on the screen license plate reader, because I wasn't sure if flock was the same group you used, but yeah. Enforcement cameras and surveillance cameras, it's kind of like two different things.
Right. These are absolutely two different things.
Yeah.
Again, you're looking at, you go to a major retailer. I promise you, at this specific one, I won't name
Mhm.
since we're on the air,
Right.
but I'm not going to give anybody free advertisement.
You can free advertise, you just
But-
can't disparage. I don't.
But yeah, well, I don't want to disparage anybody either. But when you go into most major retailers, there is going to be a camera on the door frame that
Yeah.
shows your face.
And if you go to, I'll say Walmart, or you go to the bigger ones, they have cameras on the light poles. They
Yeah,
have, you know.
Correct. So there are cameras throughout most major retailers for obvious reasons. And this is a similar
Mhm.
piece of equipment. It doesn't. Again, a video camera does nothing but record images.
Yes.
It's not even a burglar alarm.
Mhm.
Now, this has a burglar alarm feature, so to speak, in the hot list side, but this system, in and of itself, there's no mechanism or process that allows us to go back in and make any determination on criminal activity based on the data that's in the system.
Because basically, so let's say you have a hit and run on one end of town, and
Mhm.
I'm not sure how the cameras are going to be placed,
Right.
right? So you have a hit and run on one end of town, and so you can start checking and see if you have a suspect, right? Or
Right.
can you look and see if there was? I think one of the bigger questions: can you look and see if there was a pattern, or capture the license plate that was in that area at that time, or how do you effectively use those cameras in a situation like that?
So a number of ways. So if we had the license plate, that's the obvious,
Yeah,
easiest
of course.
answer,
Yeah.
because that takes us specifically to that location.
Yeah.
But again, if you said, well, it was a white pickup truck, I think it had a toolbox in the back, we could probably search off of that.
Yeah.
And I think it's interesting when people talk about, I know we're going to eventually, this is going to lead to some Fourth Amendment search, reasonable search and seizure discussion.
We've got a couple comments, and we're going to talk about that. We're just not quite there yet.
But I think when people start talking about their privacy, I always like to tell a story because this was, to me, newsworthy.
Yeah.
We were looking at we subscribe to databases to do investigations, just like landlords subscribe to databases, insurance companies subscribe to databases. Almost all industries probably subscribe to some sort of database to get people's personal information and, give out loans or give credit or whatever.
Credit scores, genealogy, all of these things.
All of it. It's been around for generations.
If you have one of these, yes.
Okay, so now you got ahead of me.
Yeah.
So, but we demoed some stuff, and in the meeting, the company said, okay, let's pretend that you had a leaving the scene crash down here at 7th and Jefferson.
Yeah.
And let's say it was an older white Ford truck is all you were told.
Yeah.
The company said, check this out. And they punched it in there, and they showed us that within 1 mile of that intersection, there were 14 older white Ford trucks registered. They were not hitting against any government records. They were hitting against the records that you and I are providing when we download and agree to an app or when we fill out an application somewhere. Right. All that data resides in the private industry. And so, there's so many other things that are more telling than what a flock camera or a license plate reader does, is my point. And we are voluntarily giving up quite a bit of private information to the private industry that maintains these databases on us. Some of the other things we've talked about, it's not a speed camera, it's not a red light camera. We're not going to be issuing expired license plate. Good. I suppose that you could see that a license plate was expired using this camera, but you're not going to mail out an expired license plate ticket based off of the camera. Facial recognition, we know it doesn't do that. I think one of the things that there was a couple of things on there that I was like, wow, I can't believe somebody would even expect this, but selling the data. Yeah. So I went through the contract that we have with Flock. Now, if you go to the website, they tell you we don't sell the data. Okay, great.
Right.
I went through the contract.
Yes.
And it's very specifically in the contract, we own that data. The city of Lebanon owns that data, not Flock. Flock cannot sell it to anybody. And by the way, we don't sell it either.
Okay.
And furthermore, the city of Lebanon determines exactly who that data gets shared with. So it's not shared with anybody.
Okay, so let's pause there because that's
however,
been enough.
There's a little bit of a codicil there. It's not shared with anybody. It's not shared with Google. It's not sold to Google. It's not shared. Who is it shared with? It's shared with law enforcement around the country. If we choose to share our license plate reader data with other law enforcement agencies, they can also see the picture of that license plate.
So somebody in Texas can see a law enforcement agency in Dallas, Texas can see your information.
Correct.
Okay.
So why would that be useful? When I worked in Southeast Kansas, we had a kidnapping at the school.
Of course.
And 2 siblings were kidnapped and they fled the scene. And the driver fled the scene in the vehicle. Now, there's always teachers out, or hopefully there's always teachers out monitoring pickup and drop off. This happened to be during the drop off in the morning. This person enticed the children into the car and they left. The teacher saw it. The teacher had the license plate number and reported it to us. We were able to plug that license. We found out that car was registered to somebody that lived in a major metro area. We were able to access that data inside the Flock system, and working with that other agency, we were able to determine that person had passed by that camera and never gone back by it since the kidnapping.
Yes.
So we knew, reasonably could assume that they weren't at home. The story has a happy ending because we captured them several states away 10 hours later. almost an exact 10-hour drive to where the state police, and I can't remember if it was Tennessee or Georgia, but it was. So these people were, 10-hour drive away from our community when we recovered those children that had been kidnapped, all because of data sharing inside of law enforcement with Flock. But again, we determine who gets to see that data. And again, they're not seeing your personal identifying information. They're seeing the license plate, the picture of your car.
Yeah. So back to the law enforcement thing, because this was a source of contention. I looked for all the sources of contention, right?
Sure.
So let's say because federal, local, county, whatever government, the one question I would have, because we can philosophical this all day, is that if let's say that someplace in Kansas wanted to see in your system, do they have to request access or do they automatically have access because they're law enforcement?
It's up to us how that gets handled, and it's up to us what they can request.
Okay.
So we can set it up to where they can either contact, they're aware, so there's a map.
Okay.
And when you log in to the user system, there's a map there. You can click on that map. So let's say somebody in Wichita was up to no good or suspected of a crime, and they happen to have a connection to Lebanon.
Yeah.
So the Wichita police could jump in there. They could get on the map and they could drill down and say, okay, Lebanon has Flock. And they can click on our Flock account and see what we're willing to share.
Gotcha.
So we could share on request. We could share openly any license plate, not the license plate information, but any license plate images that are on the system.
Gotcha. And who sets that policy? Is that a city council, an internal police thing? How do you guys figure that policy?
I suppose that could be managed differently at different places. Here, I believe that the police department would have the discretion on how we're going to do that.
I'm just anticipating questions.
Sure.
Right.
Yeah.
So let's go ahead, because we went a little long here, but let's go ahead and move into that Fourth Amendment, because I know as somebody that does the news, reports, films, has a production company, what the law is expectation of privacy. And any public land, when you go out to the road, when you go outside of your house, if you have no expectation of privacy, you can record, right? I can record anything from the street. If I can see it from the street, I can legally record it, right? I can walk down the street and record in front of everybody's houses, and that is protected because of that. I think the big difference here is because Flock cameras aren't in people's houses. They're on public roads that we travel every day, that they would see exactly the same thing as if an officer was sitting there with a camera. If an officer sat there going, okay, license plate. It's just an automated system of doing the same thing with the AI database. Some of the arguments are, everybody sharing, they sell you, the abuses, the other things. But as far as constitutional rights go, I feel it falls squarely within those constitutional rights because they're not invading our privacy. We have entered a public road. We have driven on a public road. That image was caught. The UK has been way ahead of us with surveillance cameras.
Sure.
So I know we get a lot of those, but from an official law enforcement perspective, what is the Fourth Amendment and how is it affected?
Well, great topic. And first of all, there is an exhaustive body of information out there about the Fourth Amendment, what it is, what it isn't, what it applies to, what it doesn't apply to. And there are attorneys that do nothing but Fourth Amendment. It's a very complicated topic. So when you hear people speaking with authority on the Fourth Amendment, I would encourage you to listen with, think about it.
And the Fourth Amendment is search and seizure, right?
Fourth Amendment is protection against reasonable. Reasonable search and seizure. It's or unreasonable search and seizure. And so there is voluminous case law. What is the case law on automated license plate readers? Right now, there's not case law that restricts the use of those. And similar cases would involve people, just like you said, taking video or images in a public location. Now, what the case law on privacy says, when do you have privacy? One of the boundaries where you have privacy is technology. So I may be able to come over to your house and maybe I think you've got an illegal drug grow lab in there.
Yeah.
And you're consuming a lot of electricity and putting off a lot of heat. I come over there, stand in the street and look at your house. that's okay.
Yes.
But if I bring a piece of technology in there and that measures how much heat is in your house, that may be a problem.
Okay.
So that's if I put a drone in the air,
Mm-hmm.
that may be a problem, just for that reason.
Yeah.
Okay. Now there's other times that it's not a problem, but
Right.
is the courts are saying that you fly a drone over this house so that you can see what's going on behind a fence. That's a problem.
That could be
That's a search.
that's a search. That could be in reason, and you're law
So
enforcement, so that's not allowed.
correct. We are the government. We're
Mhm.
not allowed to do
Yeah.
that. Anything. So technology can be one. Something that's clearly a search could be one.
Mhm.
So let's say that you have a car parked in your driveway. For me to drive by and look at that car and go, oh, that's a blue car. We're looking for a blue
Mhm.
Chevy Malibu that's stolen.
Yeah.
Oh, well, that's a blue Chevy Malibu. I'm going to run that tag. Oh, guess what? It's stolen. That's
Yeah.
okay.
Because it's visible from the street.
But if you throw a tarp over that car
You can't lift the tarp.
and I come off of the city
Yeah.
easement and I lift that tarp up, I have now done a search.
Right.
So you have put a tarp over this car. You've created an expectation of privacy. So then it moves us into the next spot, a time when you create an expectation of privacy.
Right.
So if you have a fence put up, tinted windows, stuff like that may go to creating
Mhm.
privacy. That's up to the courts to decide.
Right.
Places you don't have privacy, the courts have spoken. You don't have privacy in a car.
Right.
They're almost entirely window.
Mhm.
You don't have privacy in a public parking lot.
Right.
So the rule of thumb that we train our new police officers in is the eyes cannot trespass where the body belongs. So if your body belongs there,
Mhm.
if the government agent's body belongs in this location, then if they see something, they can address it.
Mhm.
So again, you have to remember, did the body belong there? So that's the key. So those are the, what steps have you taken to create an expectation of privacy? Did the body belong there? What was the technology used to gain this information? Those kinds of things are what the court looks at when they start talking about the Fourth Amendment. So now there is a case that I'm aware of in which the court is looking at the ability to stitch together those movements.
Right.
And what will become of that, I don't know.
That's fair.
But at this point, those cameras are operating in a lawful manner, in a reasonable manner when it comes to search and seizure.
Mhm. We've been a little long here, but the reason why I wanted, and I'm glad that we did, is I think we have thoroughly covered flock cameras, what it is. I try not to opinionize too much, but we live in a society that we have this total back and forth between what is law enforcement, what is privacy. When we wrote the first Fourth Amendment and Constitution, I heard a joke. What would Thomas Jefferson and George Washington say if they seen the country day? And they're like, "What is that? An airplane? What is that?" Like,
Yeah,
like
sure.
there's a big disconnect between our technology and what we meant. So we have to interpret those things.
And it's a living document. We
Yes,
can go in and
yes.
amend it, and then court precedent also sets how
Yeah.
things are looked at. If we got time for a couple more points, I can
Yeah,
keep them
absolutely.
quick.
Yeah.
So one of the things I saw on social media was a discussion about law enforcement sharing this information with homeowners associations.
Oh yeah, I hadn't seen that one, but yeah.
I've done some research into this. Again, I went through our contract.
Mhm.
That's absolutely inaccurate.
Yeah.
HOAs, however, and private industry can purchase flock themselves.
No, okay.
And if they do, they could share that with us if they liked.
Mhm.
It's totally up to them. Just
Yeah.
like your Ring doorbell camera or any
Yeah.
other camera.
That's mine. I can do
Yeah.
with it what I please.
Yeah. Now, one other thing I want to talk about with this data sharing, who we share info with, other law enforcement agencies. Let's talk about the why behind that. The law enforcement code of ethics requires that law enforcement work together.
Right.
And so we do what we can because we are in the business of protecting people. One other thing, sunshine law. So what's discoverable? There is a concern out there, and I understand this too, that maybe someone's involved in an interpersonal relationship, they have a bad breakup, and now this person's going to come into the police department and they're going to do an open record request for your license plate so they can see who you're seeing now, or they're going to stalk you with that information. So number one, the data that is discoverable or that is not. I'm not going to use the word discoverable. That's a legal term. The public record on there that you are allowed to get under state law does not allow that to happen.
Mhm.
So you wouldn't be able to gather the data that you need to stalk somebody. Number two, the public record only resides there for 30 days.
Mhm.
So this is not we can't go back and look at what you've done the last year.
So okay, I want clarification there. So January 3rd, 2024, if we'd had these in place, my information from that day would not still be there.
Correct.
Okay.
Not inside of the Flock software system.
Okay.
No.
But if you'd had a reason to gather that data and put it in a file against me, then it would be there.
So
but it wouldn't be in a it wouldn't
it
be
would
in the
be in a
upper
criminal
system.
case. So
Yeah,
if you
yeah.
had stolen something from a retailer and the retailer got your license plate and we punched it into the Flock
Mhm.
and we did a police report on it, that information would be in the police report. It would not be in Flock.
No. So if something happened on January 2026, you couldn't backdate to January 2024
No.
to see if that information was there.
No.
It's not there.
We would have to get maybe we'd have to get a search warrant for your cell phone to see what you were doing.
And the ping data, and that's a totally different thing. But the
But
Flock
now
cameras,
we're into getting a search warrant.
Yeah. And that's absolutely okay.
So the three main points though that I want people
Mhm.
to come away with are: number one, wins.
Mhm.
I told you the story about the kidnapping case. I think we can all agree that's a huge win when you get two young folks back to their family. There's numerous win stories with the system that we have now. And then stories of enforcement or misuse. I'm glad to see. I'm disappointed that 3 to 5% of the members of law enforcement across our country should not be in law enforcement.
Of course.
And it's unfortunate there are no perfect systems,
Mhm.
but they got in. But look at them when they get found, they're out.
Right.
And so the system is working. So the misuse, the mechanisms in place to protect your privacy, they're working. And then, of course, the oversight of the system.
Yes.
We will have oversight of the system, and as responsible leadership in our organization, we'll monitor people's conduct inside that system.
And this is what I would hope. I have no internal workings of your organization, but when you have stuff like happened in Joplin or other misuses, then you can look at that and go, okay, how do we prevent that misuse?
Sure.
Because if there's a misuse, logically, there was some sort of protection that wasn't there that allowed the misuse. So when you see these cases, like what happened in Joplin and all of those things, you can look at that and go, well, we need to put an extra layer of protection, whatever that might be.
Possibly sometimes when you look, you can find a policy issue that you can address. But I think not always, because I think the fact that sometimes when there is misconduct, I guess for some people, the threat of discovery is just not menacing enough.
I mean, that's
and
fair.
Then you just so the only thing you can do with those kind of people is use the mechanisms in place to find them and get them out of the organization.
That's fair.
But again, the fact that this individual was caught. Now, if you came to me with a story of a police officer that had been abusing Flock for 5 years, and he had 6, as a male, and he had 6 ex-paramours that had stalking cases on him ongoing for 5 years, and nothing was detected and nothing was done, that would be a moment in which I'd say, wow, here's a real weakness in the system.
That's fair.
But this is an immediate act that is immediately detected in a timely way, and it is addressed in a timely way.
Oh, absolutely.
And now, not only that, but now the specter, the menace of getting caught conducting misconduct is reinforced internally throughout the profession.
Oh, no, that's fair. That's an absolutely fair statement. One last point that I want to get, we're going to keep going, that I've seen, and I've seen it was on your notes, which is probably the big one, is a lot of people are worried about what this costs the community.
Yeah, and I should have wrote down that exact number. I want to say it was 325,000. I think
it was 325 or 347.
For
I had it written down too.
For 5 years.
Yeah.
So I can't remember what that number was exactly off the top of my head, but I'm certainly happy to pull that off of the city council agenda. And anybody that wants to go look on the city website.
Hey Sarah, if you're looking, our producer's listening. If you can grab that number real quick while we're talking and just text it to me.
Yeah, go to our city website and then go to the agenda center, and then I think it might have even been on the December 8th agenda, but I may be wrong.
Somewhere in there. It's literally it's probably one of our stories. We just recently covered
Pretty
it.
sure it was the December 8th agenda, and all that information's in there.
Yeah, but the cost. A lot of people were talking about the cost and the justification of the cost, and
I think this year it's $37,000.
Okay.
And when you look at the cost of, obviously we're not a business. We're not here to turn a profit.
Of course.
I will not police for profit. I wouldn't come here if that was the philosophy.
Yeah, of course.
And we see in the news what happens to organizations that police for profit. The Missouri State Legislature comes in, seizes the organization,
right? We had
shuts it down.
Was it
for
years
the city.
ago? I'm going to be careful saying the names. There was
me too.
There was a town not far from here.
We'll say north of here.
That had a big hill, and
that's the one.
That there was a lot of tickets written on that big hill.
That's right.
And that law enforcement community no longer exists.
Yeah, the state legislature came in and disbanded that organization. And another thing to note on that front, when you talk about generating revenue, a lot of our fines, particularly with moving violations, they are mandated by state law to go to the state. A percentage of that fine. So it'd be difficult to police for profit. So, but you still do. I mean, it is valid. It's a valid discussion. Is this worth? And I would just say, I don't know. Let's go talk to the mom of those kids that got taken. Would she be willing to pay 2 or 3 cents per person per year around our community, or $2 to $3 per person per year around our community to have that level of comfort that we can recover? We could have that chance at recovery so quickly.
Because you're always going to have in our society, you're going to have very law and order. This is the way it is, and my whatever. So that kind of goes back to the Fourth Amendment and that philosophical of technology and law enforcement and where all of that ends. And I think the pushback is good. I think the conversations are good. I think that's what is the beautiful thing about our society is we can have conversations about flock cameras and reader cameras and where they start and where they end. And I want to thank you so much for coming by, because one of the things I'll give you credit for, and we did not discuss this, is that Jerry here, I call him, I'm like, hey, what's the over and under I get in an interview on this controversial subject going on in Lebanon? He's like, I'll be there at what time, right? So whether you like his answers or don't like his answers or want to discuss his answers, please be civil in the comments. I'm glad we've had a 36-minute conversation about the flock cameras. No, you're fine, because if you'll just sit down and watch this video, I think we've talked about everything that we can talk about for them, because there's things we can't. We got a comment about the ACLUA and data being shared. That's outside. You address that by you decide what data you share. Right. You decide who you share that with and what data, right. And that is policed person by person. And the courts may come out and say, okay, here's an overall policy. This is the only thing you can share. But this is where we live, and as those court cases play out, that changes a lot of your policy. I would love to have you come sit down and talk, and I just get to ask you dumb questions, right? About no, seriously. We were talking the other day. What was it that we wanted to get professional? We were talking about a show, and we wanted to $38,250 per year is what she found. Okay. So, but ask those dumb questions that we always want to know, like what's the biggest thing? What's that? Like, do you like donuts? Like what? All of those things. I know, love donuts, right? So
maple.
Yeah, right. I remember
maple
that.
Glazed.
I remember that. Our first meeting. I brought him Simon's first meeting, but I just appreciate you coming here and talking to us and being transparent. Thank you. We're going to hop off of here. There's been quite a few people watching the whole time, and this will be a long watch back. If you have any questions whatsoever, feel free to email me at ryan@lebanon@monow.com. And how do they contact information for you?
Sure. Yeah, you can email me at jharrison@lebanonmo.org.
Okay. And thank you guys. And like I said, in the comments, keep it civil. We can debate. I love debate. I don't like the name calling and stuff. Whether you like the cameras or don't like the cameras, hopefully this discussion has told you the ups and downs. We recognize there's chances for abuse, but we also recognize the chances for the win. And it's just about entrusting how those things are implemented. Stay tuned. No Foodie Friday today. Sad face. We had to move it because of a medical thing, but we've got Preacher Boy's secret sauce or Preacher Boy's barbecue sauce coming up. We've got Swiss In coming up, amongst a bunch of other recipes. Stay tuned. We got Girl Power election coverage as we grow in 2026. Thank you guys so much. Thank you again, Jerry.
Hey, happy to do it.